Hello and greetings, my earthlings, my people. This is the GS Podcast, episode 6. Officially a half a dozen. Officially 1 after 5. You know, we'll see how long these go. We'll see how many I do. I'm grateful to you for listening. Keep hearing from people that are listening to these things. And, all I could say is I don't know what the heck I'm doing, except I like to talk. And I like sharing what the heck's going on in my life because my life is awfully interesting at times. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's better at times. It doesn't necessarily mean it's worse at times. It's just interesting. I'm living a very interesting existence right now. And so to live it alone is one thing, but to live it and to share it is a whole nother thing. And that's why I love doing these things. When I was in elementary school, I used to get yelled at all the time for talking in class. And granted, it's class. There needs to be some order. But the reality is that I loved to talk. I always liked making people laugh. And I like talking with people. Truthfully, a lot of it was probably my own, desire for attention and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure a lot of that is in there. And also just a genuine desire to connect with people and to share what's going on and not pretend that we're in this alone. Ironically, it's easy to feel really disconnected these days. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have every single social media network available to us. We can post, we can communicate with people. But I notice out in the world a much reduced ability and capability of us to communicate face to face and to look one another in the eye. The grocery store, the gas station, wherever you're going, we have lost. I don't think we've lost our ability. I think we've lost our confidence and we've lost our vision for what a life could be, because it's very easy to be influenced by the media and to be influenced by everything that you're seeing all day long. I always look at my brain as like a computer that has a certain amount of megahertz or gigahertz of accessibility. Another term would be like bandwidth. And we all have a certain amount of bandwidth that we start the day with a certain amount of bandwidth. As the day goes on, things fill up that bandwidth. You might have to think about how you're going to get to work, how your kids are going to get to school, what you have to do today. Then you might grab your phone and start scrolling on Facebook, scrolling on Instagram. You're taking in images. We're taking in video. We're taking in people's comments, opinions. Some images are violent. Some of them are funny. Some of them are peaceful. Some of them are loving. Some of them are toxic. But it all takes up bandwidth. In order to process, in order to look at your phone and scroll on Instagram for a half an hour, your brain has to operate, it has to process those images, and it's using up energy. And because we're spending a lot of our energy in there, it's possible that we don't have as much energy or as much bandwidth to share with one another. I've been a weirdo for most of my life. And as I get older, I see how weird I am. And I'm not saying weird to knock myself or to create any kind of self-deprecating humor. That's not what my intention is. I'm definitely strange. When tapes went to CDs, when VHSs went to DVDs, I was resistant. I wanted to keep the tapes and I didn't want to go to the discs. And then when the everybody got onto iPhones. I wanted to stay on my flip phone. And when everybody got on social media, I eventually learned that social media wasn't for me, so I took a long, long time off. I don't have the bandwidth to spend on a lot of different things. And I've taken a lot of detoxes from the phone over the last few years. I'll take detoxes over the weekend. I'll take long weekend retreats. I'll go on silent retreats where I won't look at my phone for a period of time. And of course, when I was in Hawaii, I was off the grid, so I didn't really have very much access at all, unless I intentionally went to a coffee shop that had Wi-Fi and I could dig into things. But I see it in my own life where I'll catch myself sometimes. I'll catch myself with how much I am doing things, participating in things, absorbing content that's not a good use of my bandwidth. We all like candy. We all like junk food. Like some of us eat more of it than others maybe. But you can't have junk food every day. Like you can't live on Skittles and chocolate milk. It's kind of the same thing with content. It's okay to look at some stupid videos every now and then and get some lightness coming through. But if it's too much of that, you can't help but be influenced by it. You can't help but have that information has to store somewhere, and it just takes up space where something else could be coming in. If we're too tired to go to the gym, if we're too tired to run, if we're too tired to exercise, too tired to eat well, too tired to sleep well, then when those things happen, it's easier for us to make decisions that are not in the best of our interest. Like I find that when I'm not well rested, immediately my base level of ability for the day is already reduced if I didn't sleep well. I'm already coming from a place of I'm behind a bit. So those days especially, like I can't waste on bad bandwidth. I've tried everything. I've gone back and forth. I've gotten away from media. I've come back to media. I've gotten away from the phone. I've come back to the phone. I've really played with it a lot for a long period of time now. And what I can report for me is when I take time off of my phone, even if it's just for a day, when I come back to it, my perspective is different. And therefore, the way that I operate with that phone is different. I have more awareness. So if I'm spending 30 minutes a day on Instagram, the results can be that I'm spending now like 15 minutes a day on Instagram, only because I'm aware of the fact that I'm spending time on the social media. I'm aware of the fact that I'm scrolling. I'm aware of the fact that I'm taking in things that aren't necessarily helping me. Even if they are positive messages, we don't need to see everything. We don't have to see every image, every photo, every video that's ever been posted. We don't have to see every tragedy that's going on. We don't have to see all of that. And on one hand, that phrasing used to bug me because it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I feel bad if I'm not witnessing what other people are struggling with. Like, I have to see that I'm not going to like hide from the fact that there's bad things going on. Yeah, don't. What I found though is I get enough challenge and enough to deal with and work with on a daily basis without having to participate in more conflict, participating in any more consumption of videos that are hyper violent. Like, how much blood do we need to see? How much death do we need to see, really? When I focus myself on what's in front of me, like literally what's in front of me as I'm walking through the grocery store, I'm not worried about if something's going on in the parking lot. I'm not in the parking lot anymore. I'm now in the grocery store walking to grab the groceries that I need. And along that way, that's a journey in itself. I pass people. I pass some people that are happy. I pass some people that appear to be sad. I pass people that are talking to themselves. I pass people that have their earphones in. I pass people that are on their phone. Sometimes you have to like move out of the way because somebody's not paying attention and they almost bump into you. Sometimes you're not paying attention and you almost bump into somebody. Sometimes we're on our phones while we're walking around the store and we're bumping into people and not paying attention to where we're walking. There's like a whole journey available at every single moment of your life. The train ride to work, the drive to pick up your kid from school, all of it can be used to your benefit. You can use all of that time wisely. You could choose how you want to use the time. If you're in the car and you have an hour drive and you say that you don't have enough time to do anything, but you've got this hour, are you spending that hour looking at violent images on Instagram? Are you spending that hour reading a book that's expanding your brain? Are you spending that hour like maybe just meditating and just breathing silently with no music on? You're not looking at anything. You just have your eyes closed and you're just focusing on your own heartbeat, on your own rhythm, on your own story, on your own path. There's so much time, even if it's just micro meditations, these little, if you get 5 minutes to yourself while your kid's in the bathroom or while your wife is showering or while your husband is at work or the time that Louis C.K. has a bit where he's like loading up his family into the minivan. He puts his kids in, he straps them into the seat, he puts his wife in the car, he gets all the bags in there and he closes his door. And that walk around the minivan to the driver's seat is his vacation. That's his time. That walk around the minivan to the front seat. Those of you that have kids, maybe that resonates with you even more because I do not have children. But just that, whatever time you get to yourself, you have an option. We all have an option to choose as best as we can with that time. And there's no judgment. If you want to spend that time with your face buried in a bag of donuts, watching TMZ videos on your phone, guess what? You're allowed to do that. Congratulations. You have the freedom to do that. If you want to spend the hour commenting on a politician's page and writing comments and getting into conflict on there, guess what? You are free to do it. You can do it. You won't get arrested for it. You'll totally be able to do it. You also can choose to read a book about a topic that you've been interested about, but you haven't taken the time to dig into it. You could listen to a podcast that's teaching you something about life. You could take the time to breathe while you're driving with no music on. And just crack the windows and just hear the sound of the wind and just notice everything. You could do that. All of these things are options. They're all options, and we have the ability to choose whatever we want to do. This is a truth that I've come to discover to be true for me. And I'd wager to guess that it's true for others too. Life is not about avoiding the bad things from happening. It's not about choosing the right, making sure that you're living right and doing the right thing. That's not what it's about. It's truly like an unbelievable experiment to be a human. We're here for a short period of time, like really short. Even if you live 100 years, that's nothing. If the universe has been around for 13.7 billion years and you live for 100 years, guess what? You're a blink of an eye. You're not even a blink of an eye. Think about that scale. 100 years to 14 billion. 100 to 14 billion. I'm not a math person and I don't have a calculator handy. But that's a really, 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 really tiny fraction. So we're not here very long. We're perceiving time to be this long thing that's happening on a linear path. It feels that way. we're getting feedback all day long that it's happening that way. We have an appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have an appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning. Then we have one at 2 in the afternoon, and we have one at 4 in the afternoon. And then we have dinner at 6 p.m., and we have the gym at 8 p.m., and then we have our show coming on at 9 o'clock. It appears that everything is happening in this linear form, and I'm not going to argue one way or the other that it is or it isn't. It just seems to be happening that way. What if there's a possibility that that's not what's happening? What if we entertain the possibility that that time, again, it seems like our time is like this very long, extended thing. And in some way it is. This is like a paradox. It is a long time to be alive, 100 years, but it's also a really, really tiny time to be alive. So the idea that we are to avoid bad things or to avoid bad feelings, that's not the point. The point of life is not to be happy. That's not the point. It's to truly be present in the experience of being a human being. And everything comes from that. Sadness, grief, happiness, euphoria, laughter, like the greatest feelings in the world and the worst feelings in the world. The greatest feelings in terms of how it feels in your body versus the things that don't feel so good. Like it's experiencing all of it and allowing yourself to experience all of it. Because that's really where life happens. It's in the full expression and the full experience of life. It's not just in the pockets of where good things are happening. When I'm just chasing happiness and I'm just chasing the good things that I want to happen, and I pretend that challenges aren't also a part of this, then I pretend that I want to just feel one way. That's just my mind trying to protect itself. It doesn't want to feel something. But the reality is that we're built to feel it all. That's what a human can do. And the times where I'm like, quote unquote, at my worst, where I'm like my ugliest, I'm grumpy, I'm miserable, I'm angry about something, I'm yelling about something. In those little dark corners, those little shadows parts of my life, when I resist that and I pretend that that's not me, when I don't look at my grumpiness, then it becomes like this problem. But when I just like admit, I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grumpy today. I'm so moody. It's funny to me when I start peeling it back like that. When I wake up in the morning and I'm like walking around and I go to the store to maybe get a coffee or whatever I'm doing in the morning, I can sense when I'm really grumpy, and it's just like, oh, I'm grumpy today. Look at that. And just by like looking at it and laughing at it, it relieves some tension with it. It relieves the judgment that I have. I'm judging myself for being moody, and then therefore I become even moodier, as opposed to just being like, look at that. I'm experiencing a little bit of moodiness today. And then when I say that, it's like really funny, because then I realize there's absolutely nothing to be moody about. Like, again, we're here for a limited period of time. I want to experience my life with the most amount of compassion, the most amount of love, the most amount of gratitude as I possibly can. I fall short most days. But every single day, that is my intention, to be generous, to be compassionate, to be loving, and to understand where other people are coming from. The reason that I like that is because that's how I take care of myself. I try to look at myself. I try to be compassionate with myself. I try to be generous with myself. I try to be honest about what I'm feeling, and I try to really look at all my crap. I don't hold anybody accountable to my crap. I don't hold anybody accountable. If I'm in a bad mood, you're not going to know about it, because I'm not going to put that on you. And sometimes I'm not perfect and it squeaks out and people get rained on, and I don't mean to. We're all like that. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm not here to be happy. I'm not here for any of that. I'm here to experience my existence as openly and as freely as I possibly can. And inside of that is everything else. Every single other thing that we could possibly talk about. Happiness and fulfillment and sadness and grief and all of those things. They're all inside of that, in that My goal is to just have a complete life experience. Whenever it is that I go, whenever I take my last breath, whether it's this afternoon, tomorrow morning, or in 70 years from now, whenever that day is, as long as I'm being honest with myself every day, that's all I can ask for. Because if I'm being honest, then I know what I'm here to do. And what I'm here to do is to live my most complete life. That doesn't necessarily mean, when I say complete life, that there's a lot of money and fame and fortune and big houses and cars and things and vacations, and all of that stuff can potentially be part of somebody's life, but that's not even what I'm talking about. Just a complete expression. If I'm sad, I'm sad, and I allow it to be, and whatever comes of that sadness comes. Most of the time when I'm sad, I paint, and then I get, you can see some of the paintings in the wall. That's a great expression for my sadness, is painting and doing work with colors. Music is also a great expression for my sadness, but it's also a great expression for my happiness, and dancing when I'm in a good mood, or if I'm feeling full of love. Dancing, playing music, singing, that's how I want to express myself. Maybe I write a poem. Maybe I write a short story. Maybe I do a podcast. I try to do these podcasts every week. Every now and then I miss a week. And I try to do them no matter how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling grumpy or not, if I'm feeling upbeat or not, I just want to do them and just be real, because there's some days where I'm not firing on all 18 cylinders. Some days I'm firing on half of my cylinders. But I still want to come to the table and still be honest and still share it during those days. I still want to show up. There's days where I want to run, I want to do a 4 or 5 mile run, which that's not that much for people that run a lot. But for me, that's a lot. But there's some days where I only have like 1.5 miles or 2 miles in me. That's it. Well, then that's what I'm going to do. Whatever I got in me, I'm going to do it. And there's some times where I don't have anything to share. I don't have anything to say. And I'm kind of in an integration mode, and I'm in a state where I'm experiencing, and I haven't yet processed. These podcasts are like cocktails. I've thrown so much into the blender. That's my brain, this dome here. There's so much life in here, and so much thinking about that life, and so much introspection and writing about it, thinking about it, talking about it, painting about it, singing about it, dancing about it, and it blends up in my brain and it comes out in this podcast. So as long as I'm having life experiences, there'll be podcasts no matter where I go, no matter where I end up. So not going for happiness, not going for... Now understand what I'm saying here. I'm talking, this is like big picture stuff. I'm not saying that there's any problem with doing what makes you happy. That's part of the journey, is to follow your heart and to be able to discern between what's an authentic wish and what's from your heart, and to discern that, between that and, what your mind wants you to do or what your ego wants you to do. If we take care of ourselves and we take care of the parts of ourselves that are jacked up, and if you're listening to this, there are parts of you right now that you have no idea are jacked up, and there's parts of you that are jacked up. So start with the stuff that is jacked up. And just like you would your child, like you would your baby, like you would your dog, your puppy, love, listen to, take care of that. If you're moody and you're constantly moody and you're constantly grumpy in the morning, start there. Why are you really grumpy? What's going on? There's a million things that you could do to relieve those symptoms. You can exercise in the morning. You can meditate in the morning. You can write in the morning. You could do something to get your body going so that it moves some of that toxic energy through you. Or maybe there's something below the surface. Maybe the reason that you're grumpy every day is because you're doing something every day that you really don't want to be doing. Okay, well, take a look at that. I mean, my point is we start where we are. Don't worry about what you can't see right now. It will show up when it needs to. There's things that we can all see right now. That's where we start. I do not have a Monday through Friday gig. I do not have a 9 to 5. I have an income that is based upon what I am willing to do to generate income for myself. Whether that is making money playing music, making money selling paintings, doing Uber Eats and delivering food, doing odd jobs and sort of freelance work. That's how I'm kind of putting my money together right now. Because of that, I'm spending more time in this other realm of creativity and this realm of taking care of myself. And for me, taking care of myself right now is more important than working and doing anything else. There's a million things that I'm doing that I feel like help me to feel like I'm contributing. There's a difference between not working, not going to a job every day, and, contributing nothing to society. Whether we have a job or we don't, we're still worthy of happiness. We're still worthy of love. We're still worthy of all the things. We have this idea, especially in this country, that if we're not working, we're not worthy of anything. That our worth comes through our work. And that sometimes that feels true. But fundamentally, before there's ever a job, there's us. If you get sick, if you get injured, if something physically happens to you that you can't go to work, what's that? You have to take care of yourself, right? If you break your legs and you have to be out for a period of time, if you break your legs and your job is you're a professional athlete, guess what? You're not going to be working. You're going to have to be sitting this one out. Why is it that when we're physically incapable, that's the only time that it's okay for us to take a break? Why do we have to wait until we're sick with a fever? Why do we have to wait until we have antibiotics from the doctor? Why do we have to wait until we get into the car accident or we break our leg to take the time that we need to heal ourselves? I think part of it is because that's a story that we tell ourselves, that this is acceptable. If I'm physically incapable, that's the only reason why I would stop. It could be a stubbornness of just not knowing when it's time to slow things down. Whatever it might be. For me, it's I have a real attachment to feeling worthy through my work. So if I'm not working, if I'm not earning a paycheck, if I'm not going to a job every day with a goal and my boss telling me what I need to do and then following up with me and saying, you're doing a great job or you're doing a shitty job, you need to fix this, or you're doing great here, without having that validation, this is a whole new world for me. I don't have any of that. So I'm forced to deal with whatever comes up. And what's been coming up for me a lot lately is feeling worthy without a 9-to-5 career. And that's a big challenge because I have to look deep into myself to realize a lot of things. I have to really be honest with myself. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to just own who you are. And right now, I am not wired for that. And it's just to be able to get to a point to admit that to myself is hard enough, let alone sharing that with the public. My entire life, I can go back as far as I can remember, till I was 4 or 5 years old. I have put all stock in work. I had no perspective outside of that whatsoever. And anybody that told me otherwise, I thought was lazy and just a suck on society. That's what I thought. In fact, when I got to Denver, I was shocked. I moved to Denver in 2008. I was shocked by how many homeless people there were. And there were times where I was walking down the street and I'd have homeless people ask me for money. And I would turn to them and I'd say, get a fucking job. That's what I would say to a homeless person. That's where I was. That was my perspective. If you weren't working, there's something wrong with you. And you need to fix your shit and get back to work. And don't come around here asking me for money if you're not willing to work. That was my attitude. I was born and raised in a family where my parents worked really hard. My grandparents worked hard. Everybody around me was always working hard. And nobody had their hand out. That wasn't the way that we were living. So when I saw it for myself, I rejected it and said, get out of my face and go get a job. Of course, without even understanding that particular person's circumstance and where they might be in their life, I just put all this stock in work. So here I am now actually living the life that I probably a long time ago judged and would put people down for trying. And here I am doing it. And when you're actually doing the thing that you used to judge, you have a really great opportunity to heal all that negative chatter in your mind about what it is you're doing. If you've always judged yourself, if you always judged people for getting married or having kids, and now you're suddenly finding yourself married with kids, well, now you have an opportunity to realize how stupid you were when you were, or smart, depending on what your situation is with the marriage and the kids. You have an opportunity to really discern, what the truth is about that thing. But if you always judge yourself and you never try the thing that you've judged yourself about, like, again, for me, I've judged people that didn't work. So now I'm not working. And I've not been working for not having a career job, for almost a year. It'll be a year in December. I've come to realize that I'm beyond all that. I'm beyond the job title and beyond what that is. So I have to make choices to make money other ways. Look, I'm still a citizen. I still have to pay taxes. I still have a life. I still have to pay for things. I'm still participating. So therefore, I have to generate income. But at this point of the game, I like generating income by doing things that are really, really authentic and things that I'm interested in doing. And if I don't make that much while I'm doing it, that's okay. I will just spend less money. You see, I have tailed back all of my expenses and how much money goes out the door tenfold. I have very, very low overhead. Aside from the house, everything else has gotten trimmed down completely. And that's how I'm able to sustain myself. I don't need the things that I thought I needed to be the person that I thought that I was. It's just where I'm at. Wherever we are is where we are. Right now, I'm in a situation where I am learning stuff that I should have learned a long time ago, that I wish I learned a long time ago. But of course, the lessons were not ready to be learned until they show up, and now they're here, and I'm learning, and it's wonderful. I have been selling things on Craigslist. I have been kind of moving things along. And I do this every so often. Well, I'll kind of thin out the stuff that I have. And I look at it and I say, do I need this thing? When was the last time I used it? When was the last time I wore it, listened to it, whatever the thing might be? And I'm really honest. A lot of times there's clothing or videos or records or things that I don't even use that they're sitting in a box in a closet. And they have been for a long time. And I never think about them and I never need them. And it's like, these are the things that need to go. These are the things to move on. So I have had a bunch of ads on Craigslist and I've slowly sold through most of it. I have like a couple things left. And one of the things that I had on there was a thing called, was PVC pipe. I have some PVC. Now, when I put up the ad to sell the PVC, or in this case, I put it up on the free section, I put, PVC available. This is not plumbing grade. Now, realize at the time, I had no idea what PVC meant. I'll be honest with you. When I wrote the ad, I had no idea what PVC meant. I've never known what PVC meant. Some people are listening to this like, what are you, crazy? Like, I didn't know that it meant plumbing, whatever V is, ventilation. I didn't know that was an acronym. So when I wrote in my ad, PVC available, not plumbing grade. You can understand why that's probably confusing to people. So I wasn't getting many bites. And finally, one day I get an email from a guy. And the email says, FYI, PVC is plumbing grade. P, plumbing. V, ventilation. C, and I can't remember what the C means. Duh. So that's what he wrote in the email. FYI, PVC is plumbing grade. P, plumbing. V, ventilation. C, duh. So I get this email, and the first part of it is like, FYI, this is what PVC means. Oh. And then there's the second part of the email reads, duh. So I get this email. It's in the middle of the day. I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of other things. And I get this email, and my immediate response, reaction, knee-jerk to the email is, what an asshole. What an asshole. That was my reaction. Could have done without the duh. Who does this guy think he is? Writing duh. What is he in 8th grade? I appreciate the feedback, but I could do without your sarcasm. Like, these are all the things that I had in my head that I wanted to blast back in an email. I noticed this reaction come up, and I saw that there was an opportunity here to look at this and see where the hell it's coming from and make a different choice. So I'm battling with this for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going into my phone to respond on an email, and I'm typing out different emails and how I can word this thing. And after about 5 minutes of playing this game, I started laughing because I realized, what the fuck am I doing? What am I trying to protect myself from here? What exactly am I trying to win here? Am I trying to convince this person that I don't know, but who, by the way, it's an email? There's nobody even there. I'm trying to convince this imaginary person that they're wrong and that I'm right and that they shouldn't say that to me. And is that really where I'm spending my time? So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about bandwidth and just being aware of what we're consuming and being aware of what we're also putting out. And here's an example. I'm wait a minute. I'm looking to fight this guy. I'm trying to get into some kind of conflict. Why am I doing that? Well, because he's wrong. Okay. Why do you feel, is what I'm asking myself, why do you feel the need? Why do you feel like you're right and he's wrong? And why do you feel like there's a need to be right or to be wrong here? And of course, when I go into it and I really am honest with myself, there's nothing. I don't want to fight with anybody. I don't care. And to be perfectly honest, his advice or her advice, I don't know if it was a him or a her or a they, was helpful because I didn't know. So they were right. It was a kind of a duh thing. And if anybody knows what PVC means, I'm sure it's an obvious thing that I just didn't know. So to anybody who would be like, duh, is this guy stupid? I would probably say the same thing. But because it was turned to me, it made me feel dumb. It exposed areas of myself that were vulnerable, right? All that stuff gets triggered, and so I get into a fight mode, and I want to have conflict. And then I thought, holy shit, this is exactly how every single conflict and every single war ever since the beginning of time has started, and this is where it comes from. Somebody does something, somebody has a reaction or a response to it, And oftentimes that response or reaction is as violent, as negative, or as damning as the original attack. And now you have two people in conflict. If you want two people to do nothing but fight all day long, convince them that they are on a side of something. What 1 and 1 needs is 3, which is the unifying story. That's a quote by Caroline Casey. She's an amazing astrologer and also social activist, and very, very wise woman. Conflict and war starts when we think that we have something that we have to defend. That's where it comes down to. And there are times in our life where we have to defend ourselves. But guess what? Getting an email from somebody at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not something that's wise to create a war over. It's not a hill that you want to die on. Period. End of story. And it takes some balls and some presence to sit with that and look at it. Because we can all think of times in our life where we've reacted and responded, whether it's on YouTube comments or an email or a text or a phone call or something on TV or some image that comes to us and we reject it, judge it, damn it in some way, and then that judgment and damning is received and then sent back to you, and then you feel that resentment, judgment, damning, so then you send it back to them, and then back and forth we go. Guess what? Now we've created a war. We've created a fight. Fights are awesome. I've been doing martial arts my entire life. I love watching fights. I think that they are an incredible test of human spirit. But that's in the ring and that's for sport. Getting into a fight over an email is very, very silly. So once I came to this realization, I had a good laugh and got to make fun of myself a little bit and laugh at myself and realize the funniest part of this is that that I didn't know something so simple. There's so many things I know, and then there's so many things I don't know, and it's just another area of just like, guess what? We don't know everything. I don't know everything. There's going to be a million things that I'm going to come across in my life that I ain't going to know that a million other people do know. And it's a little embarrassing, and yeah, it tickles, it squashes the ego a little bit. And guess what? That's healthy. That's really fucking healthy. So I decided to send some love that person's way. I was not going to accept my hurt brain's response of fuck this guy. I was going to say, you know what? I'm here to lift people up. I want to support people, and I want to thank people, and I want to appreciate people. Even if they're being shitty, they're not shitty. People, we are not shitty. We choose to do things that are shitty, but at our core, we are not. We're pretending to be shitty. I know who people really are, and I know who this person really is. And I know that if we were standing face to face, he probably or she might have probably not said duh, but it was an easy thing for somebody to fire that out on an email. I know that this person was there. They helped me. They gave me information. I went back. I edited the post, and guess what? Within a couple hours, somebody came and took away the PVC pipe. I'll never know if it was because of the edit, but I have a feeling it was. And it was feedback. It was feedback that initially caused me to contract and be in a state of conflict and say, screw this guy and what an asshole, and almost completely disregard anything he was saying because of the duh, because my ego got stung. So I didn't listen to any of the feedback. How many times is this happening in our lives where there's a message that's being delivered to us, but because it's not exactly perfect or it's not exactly what we would like, we reject it completely? When really that maybe is feedback that we need to break out of our own delusions. So I wrote back an email and I said, thank you so much for your feedback. Believe it or not, I didn't know what PVC meant. Ha ha. But thank you. I appreciate you. That was my email back. That was authentic and genuine. I had nothing else to say. I wasn't mad at them. I wasn't going to throw something back. There's no conflict. There's no conflict. I was grateful for the email. And then a few hours later, my PVC was gone. Somebody took it. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. The next time that there's something going on in your life where there's conflict, where there's a potential to react, take a minute to breathe and see it for what it is. And truly ask yourself, like you would ask your child, is this worth fighting for? Play it out. The person that cut you off, go ahead, play it out. So you cut them off, and then they cut you off, and then you cut them off, and then before you know it, so then you flip them the finger, and then they flip you the finger. Let's keep playing this out. Then what? You start screaming, fuck you, then that feels good, and then they come up next to you, and the window's down, and you're screaming, fuck you back. Okay, now then what's after that? Okay, now you both pull over. Okay, now then what happens? Maybe somebody pulls out a gun. Let's say nobody pulls out a gun. Okay, now what? Now it's physical altercation. Now what? Oh, now somebody actually might get physically hurt. Okay, now what? Well, maybe now the cops come because there's a conflict happening on a public road. Now maybe then what happens after that? Maybe you get arrested. You see, it just creates more and more problems the down you go. Taking the high road means to make a choice to lift the person up, to not damn them, to not participate in the game that they're trying to play, to actually look inside and realize that there is nothing to be gained here. Somebody's trying to take something from you, just give it to them. Become more generous when somebody's trying to take from you. If somebody's trying to fuck with you, hold a boundary and tell them to get the F back. But then give them something, and that generosity can wake even the biggest sleeping giant. And if that's too extreme, fine. But just the next time that there's anything that could potentially set you off, just take a minute to consider that maybe that person's having a bad day. Maybe that person that sent me the email, maybe they've been having a bad year. Maybe they've been having a bad decade. Like nothing goes their way. Maybe they've spent the last 5 years maybe there's somebody that likes to blast out comments on YouTube. Maybe their parents got divorced when they were young and they didn't have support, so they never learned how to love themselves. And they never learned how to really love anybody else, and they've experienced a number of failed relationships, and there was an opportunity to correct somebody in this way, and they saw it and they took it, and that's all it is. Like if we really take a minute to just look at it through the eyes of the other person, like I'm talking about stopping what we're doing and actually considering what that other person might be dealing with. And then there's some relief there because we can be compassionate and realize, well, shit, I've been there before. We've all written comments. Every single person, every one of us has done something that we wish we didn't do. We've all made mistakes. We've all been mean. We've all bullied somebody. We've all laughed at somebody. We've all made fun of somebody. We've all harassed somebody. All of us. We've all done it. There isn't a single person at some point in their life that hasn't done something to hurt somebody else. Why do we do that? What is going on when we hurt other people? When I'm trying to hurt somebody else, it's because I'm too caught up in the fact that I'm so hurt. And it feels like I'm a victim. And it feels like that this thing happened to me. And it feels like that the world is against me. So I feel like I have to fight and blast outward. That's what's going on with me when I feel like I want to have conflict. That I have a conflict inside myself. I can't love myself. I can't be calm with myself. So if that's what's going on with me, if that's what's going on with most of us, then we can understand where the other person's coming from that's creating the conflict. We can understand that we've all been there. So we can begin to make a new choice and not participate and not go back into that swamp and not go down that rabbit hole. We've already done it, and we see how it plays out over and over and over again. All of the wars and all of the fighting and all of the comments and everything doesn't do anything. All it's doing is getting us invested in not fixing the thing. It's getting us invested in thinking that by defending ourselves, we will we will somehow be free of all of the problems. That if we fight hard enough, that'll all go away. And when we fight something, it just comes back. Whatever we resist persists. Whatever, we strengthen what we oppose. That's just the way it goes. This is a constant practice. I'm not perfect, but I'm just sharing stuff that happens to me on a daily basis. And I see opportunities to be kind in a lot of areas. I see opportunities to be kind where I see a lot of other people not be kind. I do Uber Eats, so I deliver food. It's a big source of income for me, actually. And it was something that I never thought I would do, honestly. I was really resistant to it. And I'm happy I did it because it's the most flexible job in the world. And it allows me to make a few bucks, but not have to commit too deeply to it. But I see how there are some people that I bring food to that are really rude. I do the best I can I'm the same way with every person. I put the food in the bag. I ring the doorbell. I make eye contact with them. I say hello. I say their name. And then I put the bag down and I pull their food out and I give it to them and I thank them and I kind of go on my way. But there's a lot of people that really resist that and they don't want to look at me and they don't want to thank me and I don't get tips. And at first that really bothered me and I would be really resentful when somebody wouldn't give me a tip, honestly. And over time, I was realizing that there's so many possibilities of why somebody's not tipping me. And to just be kind to everybody and not to worry about the outcome that's involved if I'm kind or not. Just be kind because it just feels good to be kind. When I'm not in conflict with anybody else, if I'm not in conflict with myself, then I'm not in conflict with anybody else. And I don't have any other energy but to be kind. I want to be generous. I want to be kind. I want to be nice to people. I want to talk to them. When I'm taking care of myself, when I'm in that space, that's what I want. I don't want any conflict. It's the last thing I want. And I think that everybody is very similar to that. I think even if we're listening to this and saying, no, not me, I like conflict. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. It's just that there are other ways to deal with things too. That's all. That's all. Well, this is a good one. I appreciate everybody's ears, and hopefully I've given you some things to think about. Lord knows that this is a continual practice. This is not, this is stuff I'm working on every single day. It's never perfect. It's never going to be. But I pay attention to it because at the bottom line for me in this life is not anything except living my complete fullest expression. And involved in that is also a lot of kindness and compassion. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being my friends. Thank you for being alive and being here and doing what you're doing. Thank you for considering this podcast and considering the words that I'm saying. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.